Money, 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 money. That's what we're going to talk about here on StarCraft. We got Jesse from Ting and Michael from Maturino. But let's get this party started. Hit it, Tara. Welcome, my awesome people, my probes, pylons, and overlords, and the supply depots. I would never get that part of my intro
right. It's never quite right.
It's never quite right.
The probes and pylons sounds perfect, but then there's no equivalent to that. There is, but it just people don't say that.
It never works out. But it's okay. That's part of the charm of the show. Guys, welcome to Inside the Scene, the show where the show about people with passion in StarCraft and where that passion can take you. I'm your host, Drek Sama, and I am here with the mysterious, I couldn't think of an in one this time, but mysterious Ender Sword.
Yeah. How's it going?
I need to make a list of like indestructible, like the IN words, just so I can keep the overall theme. All right, we are back on this show. Yesterday we had Probots, which was kind of fun. Always a big fan of the Probots and people in that bot community and what they come up with. How did you feel about yesterday?
I thought it was really good. I thought we saw like a really, really good variety. A lot of new bots out there that we didn't see in season one, doing some pretty interesting builds. We saw one bot in one game do a complete worker rush, and the next game play a macro game, and ended up successful in both. So, yeah, pretty good variety. And of course, we saw a returning champion ESChamp win his game as well. So, and looking crazy on the macro side. Yeah. So pretty good. If people are interested in that at all, tune in tomorrow as well. But we're going to have that going for several weeks at least for the whole season 2.
Absolutely, guys. So don't forget Probots right here on this channel, Wednesdays and Fridays. We got a really cool topic to go over, the money in StarCraft. But as per usual, before we get into that, let's open up with the question of the day. Question of the day: Who is your favorite obscure character in SE2 lore? I was like, I don't remember. Like, that actually?
This definitely feels like a you question.
I feel like that. I feel like this is like a question that Tara probably thinking there. They're like, like to basically say, okay, well, let's go with it. Who is your favorite obscure character?
Yeah, I don't know how obscure is, but I think Gerard de Gaulle.
I feel like he's that's pretty mainstream in terms.
I don't know which one. I mean, it's Brood War-y, but he's not like he's not like, if you said list 10 characters in StarCraft, people would not generally put him on the list.
There's no co-op.
I don't know what. Yeah, exactly. That was almost my definition. Is if there's no co-op commander, they're obscure.
Okay, so if I was to say my favorite obscure character, well, my favorite character is Minx, but he's like obviously not obscure. I would say my most, I think Tosh is kind of obscure. Like
maybe there's a whole mission centered around him though, where you play as him.
Maybe Stedman. He's actually
Egon Stedman. Yeah.
Donnie Vermillion.
Donnie Vermillion's good.
Or Kate. Again, Kate, what's her name?
Yeah, I forget Kate's last name, but Kate whatever.
No, I'm gonna go with Donnie Vermillion.
Razagal is probably mildly obscure. It's the first female Protoss character.
She's the leader of the Matriarch, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Oh, you know what? I know my favorite. Daggert. He was a Cerebrate in Brood War. Dagoth. Yes, Dagoth. The one that Kerrigan was basically like, I'm gonna fuck you up, man.
Yeah.
There's
a few good Cerebrates. Zaz.
Yeah. See, Here, I thought you didn't even like. I thought you didn't even like StarCraft.
I don't. Well, you keep asking. So we do like these Barcraft events, and Drekken always does trivia, and I do always win it. I think I've won every time, but you always ask stuff from books, and I've never read any of the books, but I've played the games.
Fair enough. That's true.
So I don't know the lore, as in like
the extended universe. StarCraft.
Yeah, like I play games, but we both know I can't read or write. So I have to hear it out loud.
Yeah, the equivalency of the StarCraft extended universe. If any of you Star Wars nerds out there, or I guess it's called Legends now, the books, I am a big fan of the books. I didn't read all of them, but I did read a couple of the beginning titles.
I want to. There's at least one or more StarCraft books that are by Timothy Zahn, and I have read like 100+ Star Wars extended universe ones, and I love his trilogy is my favorite.
Are you an extended universe?
Yeah, I'm a big since like high school I've read tons of that crap.
Yeah,
and now it's all erased because
I kind of
Mickey Mouse and his goddamn crap.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, whatever. But Thrawn, as long as Thrawn is still a
and that's really what matters. Thrawn and I guess they haven't really brought back.
But yeah, Thrawn is Timothy Zahn's, and then he's got some StarCraft books. So I want to read maybe books or at least one book, but I want to read that one.
I made a point to put it onto our list of things to do is to get the authors of the books and the comics onto the show.
That would actually.
I put a request in their PR company to let us interview, but we'll see what happens.
Makes sense. So yeah, anyone out in chat or tweet at us or do whatever, tell us what your favorite obscure character is, and it hopefully come up with like a super obscure one, like the Marine who cried and peed himself in like mission number 7 or something like that from whatever. That would be cool. So we're going to move on to our classic back in the day feature. And for people that may not have been around from the beginning of StarCraft, but still know this term, we are going to take a peek at the origin of the Artosis pylon. Here, set that up.
Right now, so Artosis unfortunately getting thinned out here. No reaction just yet. Medevac is now inside his mineral line and dropping units.
And still no reaction to this. Probes get pulled offline, but it looks like he's reacting to this front. And the front just needs to back up. There are no sentries in this army composition. So literally, he can't do anything about that. And now finally going back home. And there's one pylon powering all. Oh my gosh.
Artosis' entire infrastructure has just been shut down by a single pylon being sniped. Army moves into the natural, and it's GG. It's just, it looks silly, but
one thing to notice, if he is going drop rouse, Cruncher has an Artosis pylon powering all his gateways and the Twilight Council. So that's a potential point of weakness.
Oh my god.
Excellent moment. I never really noticed before too that it was on the exact same map in the exact same spot, basically. is what Idra kind of said there. He also didn't like Cruncher. But what kind of like almost would have to frustrate me most if I'm Artosis is that the game was clearly lost already anyway. He was down 50 supply before that attack even happened. So like it went down in history as he lost the game because he did this stupid pylon thing. He had lost the game 5-10 minutes before that.
But that's not what everyone remembers, though.
Yeah, everyone remembers the depowering the pylon and whatever. And that's back in the day. Everyone was watching like every one of them NASL games at the time.
That was season 1, so everyone had this huge thing about like NASL being like the next big thing.
And everyone had to do like the audition tapes to get in, and which is kind of a weird selection process, but that's how it worked.
Is that how they did it for season 1?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, everyone had to send in like a tape of them arguing why they should be in the league or something. And Artosis, like everyone's still out there somewhere, but like Artosis and Cats and like whatever would have like this pitch of why, and then they picked people or something. And then but it was also a season plagued with, I think Artosis played 3 games, and then because I'm not going to say because he's, you know, whatever, maybe it's legit, but he lost the 3 games and then kind of didn't show up for the next several weeks because like his computer was broken or something. But it was one of those things where, again, they just put a bunch of players together, so it was a little mismatched in some, and it was a whole season, so people did not want to end up going like 0-9 on the season. And that's why in the following NASL seasons, they put in stuff like every match you win is worth like $50 or $100.
So to keep people in.
So that people, even if they were like 1-8, would still show up for the next match, because that was a big problem in the first season.
I remember NASL and obviously the NASL sound guy meme. I don't know if I will end up doing. You know, it'd be fun though is to find those old audition tapes and just.
I'm sure they're still on.
Pitch them together.
They gotta be on YouTube somewhere. I know that like NASL played them like whatever on their things, but people usually like they put them out and they didn't just send them in. It would be like uploaded to their own YouTube. So they probably are.
So they're still out there.
They should be. I mean, although some people have probably deleted them, and then we'll see.
Nah, no one deletes that. So it might be a good opportunity to do it back in the day of where we pull up everybody's old audition tape and string them together so you can see what those look like, a piece of history.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
As per usual, let's hit up our StarCraft challenge. Let's see if you guys can guess who this person is by the time the end of the show. Hit it. Oh, whew. We were just guessing behind the scenes to figure out if we knew. And I should technically know, but even I don't know right away. So, so yes, guys, the way it works is you guess who that is. Let us know in the chat or tweet it if you're, only have Twitter beside you. But at the end of the show, we will reveal who that mystery player is.
All right. And last thing before we bring our guests in is our Arts in StarCraft segment.
This is definitely one of my favorites.
It is fun. Let's see what cool art in StarCraft there are out there this week.
I remember going. This was short, but these were good. I really liked the Marine one. That I think was my favorite one. I love the amount of talent that people have in terms of their art.
Indeed. I like the Kerrigan looking like a cranky teenager. That's
I mean, the angsty.
Yeah, she was very angsty. Like, you guys left me on this planet.
How dare you freaking abandon me? Yeah. All right, guys. So before we, as per usual, and I said that before, but we have our topic today talking about StarCraft and money, the money of StarCraft. And oh, you know what? I almost forgot. you know what? This show is brought to you by money. Money. Speaking of money, speaking of money, this show is brought to you by the ESChamp Insider Club. It's just like Patreon, but on steroids. And by steroids, I mean like supporting the show and making the show better. Exclamation mark Patreon works. So anyways, that is kind of like how we help grow our show and make our show better. Every support helps us do production and bring on awesome new tournaments to come on in. And we can't make this kind of stuff happen. Like, if you saw some of these awesome little clips we got, it's because we had some great patrons who threw us some great support, and voila, we have these cool clips. So that's a great way to support the show. Makes things better. When you get cool perks too. Don't forget that. It's not just
there's so many perks.
All the perks.
I think.
All the perks. So okay, so money. Esports, StarCraft specifically, needs money. It needs money to live. Like everything that goes around in this world that keeps on turning, money makes it. And we're going to talk about why on earth you would sponsor StarCraft in the first place. Like, what would possess you to sponsor StarCraft?
Oh, there's that negative framing again. Someone's
I actually decided I decided to lean into that idea of just
it's a good call.
Yeah, why not? Just double down on it. Why? Like, why sponsor StarCraft? Why put money into StarCraft in the first place? There are so many other games out there. Why do this game? And to help us really explore that answer, we got two guests from two distinct companies that have supported StarCraft in a momentous way. First up is Jesse Sims from Ting. Jesse!
Hello. Hello.
And guest revealed. And then second is Michael Jambone Rose from Maturino.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Welcome, Michael and Jesse, to the show.
Thanks for having us on. Yeah,
absolutely. So Ting is, you know what? Why don't let you guys explain your company so I don't actually butcher it and do it disservice.
Yeah.
Jesse, why don't you start us off?
For sure. So Ting is an American cell phone company. We are resellers, so we basically buy service off of Sprint and T-Mobile in the US, and then we sell service in a unique way. So we kind of have our own pricing, our own customer support, our own marketing, but we're kind of piggybacking off the big towers. So we still have nationwide LTE coverage, and we kind of sell service in a unique way that's really great for gamers. So I've been sponsoring kind of pro gaming tournaments, so Twitch events as well as Twitch streamers, and kind of running our social media and doing a lot of that for about the past 5 years. So that is a background of Ting and what I've been doing.
All right, Michael, give us.
Okay. Maturino is basically a financial platform that is geared towards esports. We help with prize pool distribution, so we make sure the players get paid fast and that they know what they're getting paid, that the community knows what they're getting paid. We also help with increasing the prize pools through either donations, through the sale of merchandise, either sponsor-related merchandise or our partners' merchandise. And then we also have other tools that help sponsors get a better ROI, that they can get involved in esports. They know what they're getting. And we kind of gear them towards various tournaments that we think are worth looking at. So we're pretty much just trying to allow communities and sponsors to support tournaments and make sure the players get paid more and faster.
So one of the interesting things that I find for both of your companies, a lot of, like, both you, Ting and Maturino, you guys, a lot of the first games, and obviously you can correct me if wrong, you guys started off sponsoring StarCraft or doing StarCraft related entry. If that's, did Jesse? Oh no, he's still. Is that pretty much correct for you too, Jesse?
Yeah. So I originally started. I actually worked with Total Biscuit. That was the very first person I ever worked with in terms of any sort of sponsorship or kind of marketing related thing. I can actually kind of give you a background on that. So about 6 months after I started, working here, I really just ran our social media channels and did some communication stuff, so like emails and landing page copy. And then we had this contest within everyone on the kind of content and marketing team where we were all given $5,000 to spend it however we want. And whoever could get the most signups would actually win like a $500 Amazon gift card. So within everyone on these teams, we were all given this money to just spend it however we wanted to. And I actually knew, so Axel Toss, who he used to commentate all of the MLG StarCraft 2 tournaments alongside Axlev. And I actually reached out to him on Twitter because I came from kind of the Halo community, and I really watched a lot of professional Halo before StarCraft 2 kind of blew up on MLG. So I knew him. I didn't know him well, but I knew that he kind of worked with a lot of community members. And so I reached out to him on Twitter and I said, hey, like, I'd love to kind of sponsor a tournament. Is there any way you could hook me up or help me out? And he actually connected me with Total Biscuit. And so I chatted with John, and it was great. And that was basically where I started in terms of, any sponsorships across gaming. And it went so well that from that point on, my kind of supervisor was like, okay, you should do more of that. And it was about, to just do more of that. It works really well. And I think, I did realize that Ting was a great fit for gamers just based off the way our rates work. And then, 4 years later now, it's now my full-time job. So, I really started in StarCraft, and I think in general, it's probably still the best performing community. And it's great. I don't think I'll ever leave it. And I don't think I will love any other kind of community the way I love StarCraft. So it's awesome.
Wait to frame our entire conversation and show into a single sentence and kill it. Why even have it? We're done. Show done. Thanks, Jesse. Michael, actually, how did your first conversation go when you pitched StarCraft?
Man, that's complicated. I mean, we always knew. So Match Arena was actually started because the two founders were on Team Liquid, and they saw that so believe it or not, and they saw that. So we've always been the kind of how we even know each other is or at least as well as we do, because we played StarCraft together. But we were watching Team Liquid, and there were a lot of people who wanted to see a specific match. I think it was Dragon versus Livy B, and a lot of people were basically saying, look, I will throw down $50 here, and I will, PayPal. So someone comes in and just says, well, you know what, here's my PayPal, send me the money. And right around that time, there were so many fly-by-night organizers that we said, maybe there's something here where we could allow the community to not only support the TOs that they want to support, but that they could kind of direct the content and decide what matches they wanted to see. So that's where it all started, and then it's kind of progressed from there.
I'll be honest, I didn't know it started. Yeah. I didn't know.
Well, it's our most popular game, so it seems to. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's that's where a lot of our staff comes from. We come from Blizzard Games, specifically StarCraft 2, and it just makes sense that that's kind of where we've always geared ourselves towards.
Huh! I did not know that. Well, I knew that StarCraft 2 was probably one of the most popular games on your platform, but I did not know the origins was within StarCraft 2.
Yeah, no, it is. It's funny.
Yeah, and I kind of do remember that period of people just saying if these two people will play, I'll throw.
Yeah.
It definitely was a bit of an opportunity there that poked up. Do you find? And let's get into a little bit the common thing that comes up with this, which is the demographic difference. Do you find that with StarCraft versus some of the other games, you have an older demographic, or you have at least a more affluent demographic that may have more money, more willing to donate compared to the numbers in the other games? Does that bear out what you see at all?
So on the Matrino platform, yes and no. I the way I would really say this is, it's funny because you see more straight donations towards StarCraft tournaments versus other titles. Other titles, you typically need a product that someone wants to buy. If they want to buy Soylent, then they'll be willing to get a deal on Soylent and contribute to the community. Whereas the StarCraft 2 community is awesome, and they're just like, wow, I want to support StarCraft. I want to support all the sponsors that are involved in StarCraft. Whether that makes them more affluent or maybe whether that makes them older, possibly. That's what I've heard from a lot of different sponsors. They say, well, this is a kick-ass demographic because they're a little older. It's an older game. That said, when I peruse the forums on either Team Liquid or if I'm on our StarCraft, I do notice that there's a younger demographic where there's a 14-year-old saying, I'm just getting into StarCraft, help me out. And maybe that's because it went free. So I do think there's a new audience now, but absolutely, just given how old the game is at this point, you're going to find an older demographic, and with that probably leads to slightly higher income. So
Jesse.
I guess, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesse, I'm curious the same thing about you. Like you obviously also sponsor across other games as well.
Yeah.
Do you see there's a different skew of age for StarCraft?
Yeah, like 100%. I think it's kind of been mind-blowing to me how different StarCraft is in terms of other games. You know, I've sponsored a lot of Hearthstone stuff. I've sponsored Rocket League. I've sponsored, Warcraft 3. I've sponsored a couple other different games. And I think it kind of blows my mind how just effective our campaigns have been within the StarCraft 2 community compared to others. I would say, I think there's a lot of different reasons why. I think definitely demographic is one of them. I do also believe that maybe because, when I started sponsoring the scene, it wasn't like StarCraft was just the hot game. It wasn't the, brand new game that had just launched. It was a game that, had been around for a couple of years, and it has a really dedicated niche community. And I think that people really appreciate the fact that you as a sponsor are sponsoring this community. And while it might not be the popular game right now, like Fortnite or whatever, people really, I think, have this passion for their own game, and they really appreciate the fact that you're sponsoring their game and not these other games that might be like the hot game right now. And I think people are really willing to look into a sponsor just because they're kind of sponsoring your game, and you want the pro scene to continue, you want these channels to continue creating content. And so I think they're really willing to check you out because of that. So I think that's part of the reason, but I do also think it's because the demographic is older compared to a lot of other games, which is totally true. And I think, I think they have in general more disposable income than a lot of other ones. I think Rocket League, for example, I thought would have been an audience that, might attract a similar crowd. And actually, after sponsoring that community or that, game within a couple tournaments, I actually kind of found that I'm not sure whether it's because it's a more casual game and, you can just turn on Rocket League and enjoy it and kind of passively enjoy it in a way where you really need to know StarCraft well in order to watch the game and appreciate it. And I think that because it's a game that you need to really be passionate about, you actually will end up supporting the sponsors more because I just think you can't kind of passively enjoy it in the way you can kind of enjoy some other games on Twitch. And that, I think, translates into people ending up, supporting the sponsors even more because people are just so passionate about StarCraft. And I think there is some other kind of I do think it kind of bleeds into some other games as well. I've had some really successful kind of Hearthstone sponsorships and a few other games as well. And I'm trying to find more of those communities because obviously with Ting, we want people to pay their own phone bills, right? I don't want a really young demographic. I want people within 25
who have money.
Yeah. So
they're
it's
not making the decision. You mentioned Warcraft 3. Do you find something similar there? I know it's a smaller community, but same
Warcraft,
thing.
it was great. But the only issue is that it's very European. And I find that, I need Americans, right? That's the only place where we offer cell phone service. So it's just been interesting because, StarCraft has done so well, and I just want to replicate that in other communities. But it's very difficult to find, other communities that are like StarCraft because I think it is such a unique crowd, which is great, but it's hard.
To that point, it's just that's kind of what Blizzard has managed to do, though, right? That there's obviously a lot of StarCraft 2 loyalty, but that's also loyalty to Blizzard. And I was actually explaining it to somebody who's just getting into esports, and I don't think that Blizzard is rivaled by any company in terms of brand loyalty, in terms of publisher, loyalty. They've really nailed it. And so I think a lot of these companies that are coming into esports are kind of going for volume as opposed to they're not really factoring in the loyalty aspect. And it's one to look at. And StarCraft is probably the best example of that. So just parroting your point, but it's an important one.
Yeah. I think even a counterpoint to that, it's interesting because, I have sponsored some Heroes of the Storm stuff that hasn't done too well. But I also think it's maybe partially the fact that I know StarCraft well. I've been obsessed with it forever. So it's very easy for me to kind of ingrain myself in the community and find the right ways to engage with viewers, whether it's we're creating content in which I play against StarCraft people and then create a video and then we play that on stream during a tournament. I just think that it's interesting because I do feel as a sponsor, if you are a part of the community, it makes it a lot easier to be able to sponsor and do the right things to show the community that you're a part of it as well, which translates to checking you out.
Because I would agree. Oh yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I would agree about the Heroes comment, but I was thinking about that actually, and because I have been thinking about this, and I think the problem Heroes would actually still has loyalty. It's just that it's harder to create content on the fly. That's something that StarCraft really, really does well, is that you can throw on a one-on-one and people are going to tune in. That's fun. Versus 5-on-5, you need to get the right players, you need to get the right team, then they need to be playing with the right people. Because we have actually supported a lot of Heroes content on Match Arena as well, and it's done very well as long as you have the appropriate prep time. Whereas with StarCraft, we've seen certain TOs be able to throw together a tournament that day, and it's entertaining. It's awesome to watch, and people are excited about it. So I think it's a different game, but they still benefit from the same amount of loyalty, or at least a similar level.
I like the thread of discussion of demographics. I want to tug that just a little bit. How do you guys, if you guys have had an opportunity to reach into these other communities, how does StarCraft fare in regards to games that have older and communities such as the fighting game community, CSGO, or what's another one or even like Halo, in those, across those kind of demographics? How does StarCraft sit in terms of whether that be ROI or even your engagements you guys have done?
You want to take this? I guess
I think we can both go. You can go first.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I just thought, StarCraft just excels. I don't know how else to put it, but we have been involved in a lot of different titles, and they all do well. They all have good communities that want to support the game. I would say that still the other communities like Halo, like Counter-Strike, you would think it's an older demographic, and there is an older part of that demographic, but ultimately it skews younger than StarCraft for whatever reason. I mean, even if it's an older title, you're still going to have younger kids, and maybe it's because it's on Steam, maybe it's because it's a shooter, but typically you're not going to have the same kind of at least age demographic as you do with StarCraft, or maybe brand loyalty. I don't know, but all I can safely say is that the ROI, while it's great, is not as high in other titles as it is in StarCraft, even with the older titles. That's what I found.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think actually, as someone who's I started in Halo, like Halo 2, Halo 3. I was like obsessed with the pro scene. I was like obsessed with the whole MLG circuit. I ended up seeing it. The first any esport event that I ever saw was on The Score in Canada, but it was on USA Network in the US, which was like the MLG pro circuit where they edited Halo 2 back in the day. And that's kind of what blew my mind and really made me care about esports. And the StarCraft community the Halo community is a tricky one because it's something that actually was huge before Twitch ever existed. And then the developers didn't support it. And then it kind of really fizzled off. And even though now 343 Industry is putting a ton of money into their pro scene, the pro scene is way smaller than it used to be. They used to hit 40, 50,000 concurrent viewers before Twitch even existed. And now it's not even near that unless they get hosted by Ninja or some event like that. But it's funny because if that community was still a little bit bigger, it's something I would be interested in. But I still agree with Michael on the fact that I think it's a little bit younger, and I also I'm not sure if they kind of have the same disposable income, or if they're more, or if they're as passionate about the community as StarCraft is. I think people still might passively enjoy it more, kind of Rocket League type stuff, that I've noticed. And I just think the StarCraft community is very interesting, and I have actually been trying to replicate it within Smash Bros. So. The fighting community is an interesting one, and I think that the Melee community specifically does skew pretty old. And I
thought it was going to be the exact opposite.
So I think a lot of Melee fans are people that have been around for a long time, at least
Oh, okay.
From what I've thought about. It's a lot of really passionate hardcore fans who really want to keep this game running, despite the fact that there's been so many iterations after that. And so Beyond the Summit is actually a group that I've been working with. So I sponsored their last Smash Summit, which is basically based off Home Story Cup. So what they did is they have this 4-day tournament that's in a house that's literally Home Story Cup for Smash Bros. They have all the pros commentating. It's the exact same thing. And I sponsored the last event, and it did pretty well. I was really happy with it. I thought the guys are great to work with. But I think also cell phone service in general is something that people don't switch on a whim. It takes time for you, depending on when the contract's up, depending on, a lot of things. I think it's not the same as a keyboard purchase or a mouse purchase.
Yeah, it's not an impulse.
Yeah, it's not really an impulse buy. So it's something that I think as I sponsor a couple of these tournaments, I really do think it's going to translate into some great successful sponsorships. But I do actually feel like there is a lot of opportunity in the fighting scene that kind of has like a similarities to StarCraft in my opinion. And I think the Melee scene is actually the one that I'm most interested in.
Really?
Yeah, like I personally would think, because it's a game that's been around for a long time, and I really don't think, like, as much as sure you could turn on Twitch and see, you know, Pikachu and whatever playing and enjoy it, I do think there's this like really hardcore group of people that love the fact that these sponsors are sponsoring Melee and not going after the new games, and they'll really check you out because of that. So that is, it's also partially just what I'm thinking and what I'm believing, but I do feel like it should translate into some success.
Before we jump on to our next topic, I have a really deep question I need to ask you, Jesse. Who is your all-time favorite Halo player from those days?
So it is Roy, if you know who that is. So he actually, I don't know if he still plays anymore. I think Lunchbox might have quit, but him and there's two guys, so Roy and Lunchbox, they were on the original team that they were on in Halo 2. It was maybe like Team Agency or something, but basically they were on Instinct for a long time throughout Halo 3. They were on a team with Neighbor and Walshy for a while and a few other players. But I think Roy was my favorite because he had like the best battle rifle, like the best BR in the entire, I think out of that entire circuit. He won like the awards at the end of the year, like almost every single year for best battle rifle, just because his shot was like so good. And those guys were so intense because often on the MLG circuit, they do like listen-ins. It would be like Astro Gaming, listen in, and you just like call the players and they just be screaming at each other, but like so intense when they be playing that it was amazing. Like I'm from the East Coast of Canada, like really far away. And I'm so sad that I wasn't able to go to the MLG events because I just lived too far away, because I was obsessed with that. Like it's really funny how
MLG, like the Halo scene had one thing that I always wish that StarCraft would adapt, and it was like kind of like the energy and shit talking after winning.
Oh, yeah.
I remember going to the MLG events, and then you'd be in the StarCraft area, and people are like, and then like the MLG guys like get teabag, and you're like, and people in StarCraft like looking around, and you're like, you're like, yeah, get wrecked, man, get wrecked.
Yeah,
we can't make our guys smile.
I know, and like Fear Dragon,
give them $1,000.
I know.
In chat, tried to give them money.
I know.
Like, do this, and they wouldn't do it.
I want to tell Neve to do it, but I can't change who he is. I gotta let it be.
Neve, to be fair, whenever I'm like trying to give an example of someone who will not show emotion or anything, it's Neve.
Although I mean, he will smile. He will smile after he
smile. He'll smile shyly. He'll smile shyly, then look down.
Yeah.
Okay, curious then, how does that affect as a sponsor? How does it affect the lack of that kind of energy and emotion from like your guys able to capitalize on the stories and whatnot? Like, is that an effect to you?
I mean, kind of to an extent in terms of like content creation, because, you know, I would love to be like, hey, Alex, like, let's do some things that maybe are outside of what you're used to doing. But, you know, I really can't complain. Like, I think he's an unbelievable StarCraft player, even this year, even though obviously his WCS events, like his results haven't been as good as last year. He still made the semifinals of GSL. He won a tournament in China. He's still been doing really well. And I think he made BlizzCon, so I really can't complain. And I think, you know, my sponsorship with Neve is more so just about pure exposure, which I think he gets us. Like, I think almost the 100% of the StarCraft community knows who Ting is because of him. And then, you know, my peripheral sponsorships with like Base Trade and then Nathanius and stuff are ways that we can really capture people and then identify through promo code uses, you know, how many people are actually signing up. So his is more of like a pure just play on exposure, kind of like we, you know, my CEO was actually the one who wanted me to do this back in the day. Like, I guess not back in the day, but like 2.5, 3 years ago, when he was like, hey, Twitch, not back in the, although it feels like a long time, but he was like, Twitch is new age TV. Like, I want you to kind of sponsor someone who, you know, gets us as much exposure as possible. And obviously I watched a shitload of StarCraft. So I was just like, okay, I know this guy. I think he's going to be like the best American ever. And then I just chatted with Scarlett and Rifkin and Zombie Grub. And then they all helped me talk to Neve. And he was like, at first he was like, I'm not interested, but when I'm done school, like maybe we can chat again. And I was like, come on, like do this, please. Like I want to
give you this money for what you're doing anyway.
Yeah, and it worked out, and you know, I really can't complain at all because of how successful he's been, and I think even generally he's definitely opened up more than, you know, a couple of years ago, and I think, like, you know, I can still do some good interviews with him, And, you know, maybe like I think over time, maybe things might change. But yeah, I do agree that I think in general, the StarCraft community just doesn't have that many like strong personalities, which is interesting because compared to the Halo scene, yeah, like everyone has a strong personality.
Yep.
And sometimes it goes too far, but at least it's entertaining.
I also feel we used to. Like 7 years ago,
totally
we did.
did.
And we just don't know.
I know.
I don't know
And like there is some, but they're just not. It's not the guys at the highest level.
Yeah.
Like I think maybe Dark, I would say, is like the one who really says some kind of edgy stuff that makes me laugh and makes me really enjoy. Like him talking about foreigners and stuff. And I think, well, Neeb actually did make a joke during his GSL interview where he said, I think he like made fun of the fact that Dark said that Koreans were just better than foreigners, and Neeb said the exact opposite thing, which actually made me laugh, and it was funny, and it was like, yes, Alex, keep doing more of that. But yeah, it is interesting to think about kind of StarCraft versus other games because there isn't too much personality.
Now for Maturino, like you get to, instead of having to pick what you think is gonna do well, you kind of get to put your platform out there and see who uses it. Is there like a different approach? Do you try and pursue certain content makers or games, or do you just kind of make the services available, promote, and see what sticks?
It's kind of all the above. There are certain targets that we have just because either it's a passion project, we love their content, or we know that we think it's going to do well. There are some content creators that just kind of come onto the platform and do really well. I remember Zombie Grub actually ran something with a Banshee tournament recently, and that kind of exceeded all expectations and hit, I think, like $2,500, something like that, which is always like a real pleasure to see. But other than that, it really depends. I mean, with the larger scale tournaments, it's a little more involved. Planning's a little more involved, whereas if it's a weekly, it doesn't take as long. So both really.
When you guys originally set it up, like obviously like people could see more product integration, like skins and merchandise and stuff integrated now. When you guys first started, it was kind of like, start a weekly tournament. If you put in this code, we'll just give you $1. Yeah. Was that a, I don't know, scary thing to do, or was that like a big loss leader thing to do?
To some, it was scary. To others, it wasn't.
Were you scared?
I was not. No, I was not. I was in full support. In fact, most of us were. Some of us were a little more worried than others. But you know, we like doing it. We thought that it was, you know, we've noticed we're kind of trying to change the way sponsorship happens surrounding esports in general. I'm not saying that coupon codes is the end all be all, but we do kind of feel that the television style sponsorship of, you know, pay $5,000 and get your logo in at the bottom right of the screen for an hour it's not effective for the sponsor. It's, you know, not really effective for its recurring business for the TOs. So coupons was our first iteration of trying to mix it up.
Okay. Now there's something, and Jesse had mentioned a little earlier, like kind of the type of product that you are, that it's not the type of thing that someone sees a logo and then immediately is like, I'm going to switch cell phone carriers right now to this thing. Do you think, or have you thought about it all, like which types of sponsors, which types of products seem to do better or get a better ROI in this space? Obviously, the main leader, I think, in esports is the developer, and the developer selling their own skins, games, whatever. But the other things that you see in there usually are computer products, so like things required for the game, or energy drinks specifically. How does a product like Ting, which does require like a lot of, like, I bet someone has to see that Ting like 10 times before they go and check it out. How does that work when it's a product that requires education, requires engagement, and so on? Yeah,
because I know like Ting isn't really an endemic product in the way certain products really are in the gaming community, and I think that's been a challenge, and that's why, you know, just putting our logo on the stream doesn't really help us, especially because we're not T-Mobile, like we're not Verizon, we're not a company.
They don't know it already.
Yeah, they don't know it already, so it does take time. That is why, like, outside of Need, everything else that I do is all tracked through promo codes. So, you know, everything we do is like, hey, you know, I can offer people $25 off their bill. So when they sign up for Ting, they'll get $25 in free credit, and that also lets me be able to track.
So you can see where it came
exactly
from. Okay.
where it's coming from. So that's how I'm able to really determine whether something's successful or not. And I think, even using Matcherino, like we've done some SIM card giveaways and stuff like that through Matcherino. And I know we can, I think like that's a really good way in the sense that, SIM cards are something that people can go onto our website and buy. But, if someone donates 5, 10, 15, whatever amount of money to a prize pool, they can actually get a free SIM card and then try us out without having to really pay anything. Because even with the $25 credit, they still kind of have to pay like a certain amount of money to get a SIM card shipped. Right. So yeah, I think it's a challenge, and I think it's all like, at least my mandate has been to like test a variety of options and to just test a lot of things to see what works the best and kind of run with those. And I think a big part is just working with the right broadcasters. And I think like Bay Straight TV, for example, really understands Ting well. And I think that they because I think I build my relationship with them really well, they do a good job of like explaining our service in a way where it's not just like, get $25 off your bill at ting.com/BTTV or BTTV@ting.com. He really I find Rifkin and Zombie Grub too, and I would say Nathanias as well, really do a good job of having a discussion around cell phone service, because we are the opposite of unlimited. Like we are so different from every other provider because you don't pick a plan. Like you don't really do anything. You just put your credit card on file, and however many minutes, messages, and then amount of data that you use is how much you pay at the end of the month. So it's more of a discussion, and I think that's one thing that I have to always talk about when I'm approaching streamers, is the fact that like a logo won't cut it. Like I need a discussion. I need you to talk about this. And it's really interesting because like I'm going to be sponsoring a lot of people in, I guess, the next month or so. Like I'm working with, so I think there's a big Hearthstone streamer that I'm going to be working with. And then I guess one of the biggest chess channels, which is pretty funny, but I'm really excited for that. And then another guy who does RuneScape, and like I think in October we're going to be launching a bunch of sponsorships. But it's funny because it never feels gross talking about Ting and the StarCraft community because of how we've been like how involved we've been. Right. Like I don't have an issue with any of these streamers that I'm working with or broadcasters about talking about Ting at any point, because it doesn't feel gross, because we're just kind of ingrained in the scene. But it's not the same way in these other communities. And I need to find ways to like create branded content, whether it's like a Ting voicemail line where people can call in and leave messages, and then it's like sponsored by Ting, or we do like a giveaway or some sort of engagement. But it's just interesting that like when, as a sponsor, if you can kind of ingrain yourself into the community and become part of the community, people aren't averse to bringing you up and talking about you. Whereas coming into like a whole new community, there is that barrier, and it's something that it's hard to kind of push through. And that's why, like, maybe say I want to sponsor these Beyond the Summit tournaments. Maybe I should start sponsoring 5 different Smash Bros pros first, right? To kind of like build this trust and build this exposure in a community before you bring it out of nowhere. Because, like Dave said, it does take 10 times from people learning about Ting and talking about Ting to actually switch to Ting and sign up. So it's just a challenge that I've learned, and I've been able to build this within the StarCraft community, but it's very hard to kind of do that in the other communities, because a lot of the streamers are just like, I don't want to just bring it up out of nowhere. Like we need to figure this out. But
it seem not weird.
But yet a logo isn't good enough for me. So it's difficult. Yeah.
That's interesting. So Michael, your platform works with a lot of partners to like engage them into, integrate them into a lot of tournaments and events. So from like, even at your StarCraft perspective, how does because Jesse's experience is he engrosses Ting into the community, but a lot of maybe the partners are only touch pointing from the Matcherino platform. How does that affect their ROI or their relationship?
So if I'm understanding can you repeat the question actually? Because you cut out a little bit.
I know that your platform engages and sort of matches partners in terms of rewards for the prize pools. So do you find that if that partner isn't well known within that community, like, if it's not like a Ting SIM card, if you donate X amount to this prize pool, like if it's just Soylent, but Soylent isn't like sponsoring, Dark and StarCraft, like are people going to buy Soylent because they don't have a very close relationship to that community? Like, how does that?
No, we found, so that's actually part of the logic with coupon codes, is that we kind of create a store, and then as long as people get to the page and they know that they're supporting StarCraft, and it really depends. Either they're supporting the StarCraft community or they're supporting the content creator. As long as they feel like they're doing something good and they're getting something out of it, it doesn't really matter if they don't know what Soylent is. If they check it out and then they can read the description, then they might buy Soylent. Part of the logic with coupon codes, coming back to that, is that we just wanted them to get to the page. So they know that they're supporting it for free on Match Arena's behalf, and then suddenly they get to see a Ting SIM card. They get to see, a Soylent carton and whatever else is on the page, and they know that they can get rewarded for not only entering the coupon code, but also buying it. It wasn't really about understanding what brands were on the store so much that they knew they were getting a good deal and they were supporting a scene that they loved. That's kind of what we're trying to provide. So to us, obviously it helps if they're familiar with the brand, but ultimately I think that they would still kind of look at the store and cruise around and see something they like.
So it's kind of like a marketplace in that regard. Like the whole, it's like a marketplace in that regard. Then it's just
it's kind of like a marketplace, and maybe they're coming in and maybe they're half tempted to open their wallet, and then they see something that kind of piques their interest, and they do it, and they get to support either Base Trade or Nathanius or ESChamp. The Pylon Show, exactly, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot there, and we're trying to also provide brand exposure as well at the same time. So
now for Matcherino, when a game like obviously StarCraft, that's where it kind of started, which we didn't really know, but now we do, and that's definitely the most successful or the most tournaments on that particular game.
Sure.
When there's something else like League of Legends, which has had very few tournaments actually go through Matcherino, do you ever try and reach out to people, or is there something in the community? Like, I figure when a new game comes up, there's certain habits that they adopt. Like StarCraft's main discussion place is it probably used to be Team Liquid. Now it's clearly Reddit. They develop, we use this thing to set our brackets. We use this thing to do this. Are there habits you've noticed in other games where LOL uses this thing and I don't know how to get them off that thing and into my thing?
That's an interesting question. Definitely. And so firstly, to come back in the question, we've definitely tried to, whenever there's a new title, see where the competitive scene is going. As esports gets more legitimized, we're noticing that publishers are taking, front and center. They have their big leagues, and then you have the grassroots under that. Whereas before, I found that grassroots and smaller leagues really led the charge. As far as the communities, I'm seeing that Reddit kind of takes center stage for a lot of these different titles. Mm-hmm. I have never seen, and I could be wrong, so I mean, I don't want to be held accountable here, but I haven't seen an equivalent of Team Liquid back in its heyday. And I still go to Team Liquid. I don't know about you guys. I think most StarCraft fans do.
I still want it right now.
I haven't seen a Team Liquid for Fortnite. So I don't know what that means for esports, but as far as the trends, it's becoming more standard or homogenous. Whereas before you used to have, hell, I remember I played Warcraft 3, and I used to go to a site called infoscepter.net. No one knows what the hell that is, but but that's what I used to do. And now you don't really see those little pockets anymore. And I kind of find it to be unfortunate. I miss those pockets in those communities. And you know what? Maybe there's an opportunity there. I don't know.
So one thing I was curious when it comes to tournaments, because both of you guys sponsor tournaments or you are a part of the tournaments themselves. Obviously there is this level of the pro tournaments, like the big BlizzCons and the LCS and that kind, and you guys are more involved in the community-based tournaments. Do you find that the exposure in a StarCraft tournament is, I don't want to say the word worth it. I want to say more like you get more for your dollar, more for your input in it at all when you're a part of it versus maybe another game?
I would say. Oh, sorry. Well, I'll be very quick here. Apologize, Jesse. I think it depends. I think it depends on the brand. Just like Jesse said, Jesse has a very clear strategy. right? When he's sponsoring a TO, he's measuring the ROI, versus when he sponsors NEEB, he's going for exposure. And I think that's kind of the same thing that you see in esports. I would say absolutely with StarCraft, you see a better return on your investment. On the other hand, if you're looking for only brand exposure, then you might also want to touch on Fortnite. It really depends on the brand. Obviously, Jesse probably knows this more than I do, but that's
that
my
makes sense. If you're Pepsi or Red Bull, you just want to hit people. If you're King, you need to explain it, and you need people that can afford that product, or at least are in charge of the purchasing decision on that product at the very least, which is not Fortnite.
Totally. That's the thing is that, kids they're not thinking about how much they're paying for their own phone bill because they're not paying for their own phone bill, right? So, Ting, we're basically like the opposite of Unlimited. And, we know Ting isn't perfect for everyone, but we want to be here to change people's minds and let people know, oh, hey, like I'm paying for a 5 gigabyte plan, but I'm only using a couple of gigs or maybe even less, and I don't need this much data. So I should switch to a service that can save me money. But if you're not paying for your own phone bill, you don't care. And like I've tried some collegiate stuff. I've really tried, younger demographic events. And I just find that like, you're not going to convince kids to get their parents to switch.
Yeah, you need someone with a job. Someone has to have a job before they can.
They need to be the one paying for it to care about changing this, because cell phone service is more of like a high involvement purchase, right? It's something that takes a bit of time to do. You need to kind of trust this company that you're switching to because it's a recurring payment. It's not something that's just one time and then you can forget about it. So yeah, it's interesting, but I think in that vein, it's something where I think I would actually probably choose a StarCraft tournament that might have, say, 50% less viewers than, like a Fortnite event that has double the event for, the same amount of money, just because I know that these viewers are actually going to be interested in us for so many different reasons. Demographic, because I think that specific audience is an intelligent audience. And I think Ting is a service that you need to understand, and I don't think everyone will really get it. And a lot of people just want to like pay for the phone bill and not think about it, and I understand that. So I think, finding that intelligent crowd, people that really can understand something like this. And I think in general, StarCraft is a game that you need to be somewhat intelligent to really understand it and play it, because it's complicated. It is. And I think, so I think in general, like I love getting kind of that pure exposure in the StarCraft community, and being able to like encompass all of it across like these big WCS events and BlizzCon and stuff. And it's just the tricky part is replicating that in other communities and finding these other like games that can still reach a large audience but are new people.
You mentioned chess. Is that have you done anything yet with chess?
No, so this is the first thing I'm going to be doing.
Oh, I'm curious. I was curious to know how similar is chess to StarCraft.
I watched a bit of that. Who do you have?
So, well, I don't know if I should say it yet because we haven't announced it. But he's it's a group of guys, and they're awesome. And I'm going to be launching that on Sunday actually. So that's
is it Magnus?
No.
I think I know who it almost certainly is, but I'll
cool.
I'll ask you after maybe.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. Cool. But I'm really excited, and these guys are great to work with. They, run their own tournaments, but they also commentate bigger events. And I think chess is something that kind of came to Twitch late, and it's obviously a large, it has its own niche, I think, on the internet, and, chess.com is pretty popular, and there's also Lee Chess. And actually my brother is like a huge chess fan, so he kind of filled me in on a lot of this and got me interested in it. But I always knew that, the chess community is like, it is similar to me in terms of like a community like StarCraft. Because it's basically, StarCraft is chess on crack. Like it's the multitasking version of chess, essentially. And I think chess, like looking at this channel, their channel has just been growing and growing and growing, and they've only been around for like not that long at all. And recently they went full time into this. So it's something I'm really excited about. And I think we're going to see, chess on the front page of Twitch, and it's going to blow up a lot more in the next little while. Another thing I'm doing is I'm going to be sponsoring the World Tetris Championships, the classic World Tetris Championships, which is in Portland, October 20th to the 22nd. It's like a retro gaming conference, and that's another perfect community. I think any retro gaming type stuff. Yeah, like it's all kind of older fans, and I know, like talking with the guys who run the event, it's all these like dads with young kids that come to the tournament. So we're gonna have a booth there, but we're also gonna be represented on their stream, and their YouTube videos after the fact get like so many views. So I'm really excited to kind of sponsor that. And it's weird because I'm not going after the most popular games nowadays. Like I have this, like, it's really interesting because all these brands obviously want to jump on what's popular now and what's kind of blowing up. And I have to be very selective and kind of pick the games that just bring the right audience to me, which is nice because, you know, these communities and these channels aren't the ones that are just getting sponsors thrown at them, right? So it's nice because I'm able to kind of negotiate and figure out and find like ways to really talk about Ting in a way that I think a lot of these big channels wouldn't be interested because they're getting so many opportunities. And they're like, all I have to do is throw a Red Bull, you know, logo on my stream and I can get paid a shitload. Like, why would I talk about a service and do some branded type content?
How are we doing that work?
Yeah. So it's kind of cool because I'm working with guys who are really passionate, and you know, it's not like people that are just making shitloads of money doing nothing. Basically, it's people that really are trying hard, and I think as a gamer and as someone who's kind of involved in this community, I'm able to kind of work with them well and find a good fit and hopefully make it successful.
Well, StarCraft, like just changing slight gears, StarCraft has been around for a bit, and we've all known it had its ups and downs. Has there been a time where you guys had to reassess your participation in StarCraft, whether that because of numbers or because of just its direction or like, you know, other game pressure? Like, has there been a time you had to reassess StarCraft?
Yeah, I can go first if you want.
Go for it.
So after I sponsored StarCraft America with Total Biscuit, like the very first event I ever did, I jumped on an opportunity that I probably shouldn't have within the StarCraft community, and it was more like collegiate related. And I think just because of how well Total Biscuit's event had went, I assumed that this would be successful. And I put a fair amount of money into it, and it was like not successful at all. And I think I kind of jumped the gun on that, and that really it didn't go well at all, and it kind of made me like step back a little bit for I'd say like 6 months to a year before I kind of connected with base trade and stuff. But I think like I you know, as much as I'm saying the entire StarCraft community is an older demographic, I do think that there is like younger people out there too that, you know, at least in this point in time, which was like 4-ish years ago. I just think I spent a lot of money at one point within like kind of the college demographic before I kind of realized that wasn't the right demographic for us, and it didn't go too well, and it made me have to like be very selective moving forward. So that was my.
Yeah, it's funny. For us, I haven't really ever wavered. Obviously it's the nature of the platform is different than Ting. As we've progressed, you know, more people are familiar with the platform. We get better products on there. We did the Nation Wars where we sold skins and, you know, not skins, but in-game portraits. And I actually remember a conversation with one of the guys from O Gaming, and you know, in the first day, I think we raised, you know, I don't know, we sold a lot, and it was looking really good. And he called me up and he's like, man, I was really worried. You know, I didn't know that people were going to support through these in-game items so well. I'm really happy. I'm relieved because I didn't know it was going to go well. And you know, I told him that we had actually seen, you know, as we've progressed through StarCraft, we've actually seen more and more community support. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's because people are more familiar and more comfortable with Matcherino. I don't know if people are making more money as they get older and they have more disposable income. I can't really say why, but we are seeing that actually in terms of Matcherino numbers, StarCraft just keeps the, you know, it's on the up and up. So we've never really wavered from our dedication to StarCraft. And I hope we never do. So
have you found, particularly for Matcherino, have you found trends of like, or ever really bothered to look into them, trends of like this type of tournament does really well, this type of content does really well, and this seems to fail? Have you ever looked into what you should be promoting, going after, et cetera?
Yeah, we have. Typically, it's the style of promotion more than the content. That said, I am personally very excited when there's like an innovative approach or like innovative content, whatever it is. Maybe it's something, it's not even that hard to think about, but an Archon mode tournament, love seeing that, or some kind of King of the Hill. That's always fun. I realize that's not
custom AI
that
bot
sounds rare. That would be great. I mean, I would love to see that, you know.
Yeah.
But that said, it really comes down to how it's promoted, how it's presented. More than anything else, we've seen. And I'm sure that translates to sponsors as well. It's really, yes, the title matters, but it's, it's actually, it comes back to Jesse's point, is you need to have a conversation surrounding Ting. You can't just slap the logo on there. So, presentation is, it matters a lot. So in terms of the content, obviously that's part of the presentation. I love seeing innovative content, but I don't think that that's always the crux of whether it's a hit on Match Arena or not.
Makes sense.
I want to hear from you guys in terms of, and you can obviously redact the names, but what is like the worst sponsorship pitch you've ever had?
Sponsorship pitch in terms of,
or like support, either support from your organization or like, help us do X, Y, Z. Like, what is the worst? Like, if someone's coming to this, like, what
okay,
is the worst?
I have a great story.
Yes.
This is early on. Man, this is like back when we had really launched anything. We were supporting a League of Legends streamers, actually. And we're just trying to like see it. And we had this other tool that's not really part of the Match Arena platform anymore. But I guess she didn't know that I was watching. I don't really know, but she was pretty much, we supported this thing. It helped streamers play with their fans. So not really related to the platform at all. And the whole time she was like clicking through it, she's like, oh, like, what is this? I don't know. It was just this whole, it was kind of a shit show. And then I got on the phone with her after having watched it, like 30 minutes after. And she was like, yeah, no, it was great. I really enjoyed this and that. I'm down for next one. I'm like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to do it again. So that was mine, not related to Match Arena, really. In terms of bad pitches for the platform itself, it's really just that they don't talk about it at all. Because Match Arena, you get what you give in a certain sense. If you create a campaign, it's not just going to generate money. It's not for you, for your prize pool, for anything. I mean, you need to direct people. You need to put time into creating a good campaign and then educating people not only about the campaign, but about how to use it and how to get there. So it does take 30 seconds of the broadcast. And sometimes people don't do that. And then the results are lackluster. And then you can sometimes sense the frustration with that. So really a bad pitch is just no pitch at all. That's been our experience there.
Jesse, give me a story.
So I think I'll say in general, like, obviously I've been sponsoring on Twitch for the past 5 years or so. So there's a lot of, I guess, like agency and manager type people that come in and they think that maybe they've seen us on Twitch before, but they don't really think that we understand how it works. And a lot of people like pitch, ridiculous pricing for channels where I know that, like, I work with people and I have close enough relationships with certain channels that I know, how much they're making and how much money they can make off these channels. So often I just get like ridiculous, offers in terms of like how much we should be paying them per month as like, if we integrate into their stream or become a sponsor. So it just makes me laugh because then
like the shell game where like, oh, you don't know what's underneath this hat. So
yeah. And I'm like, I actually know this very well. Like, this is not my first rodeo. So it's nice to be able to just like, I know I'm not getting screwed in this scene, which is nice because I think a lot of the times people just basically like present Twitch as like, the new YouTube and this big live streaming platform. And I agree with that. But I think a lot of the times they just are able to kind of screw over sponsors and make them pay a lot more than, the amount that they should be paying. And I think it's just, I've had a lot of funny interactions with some people that way, in which I just get emails and I'm just like face palming and I'm like, okay, no, we got to go back to the beginning. That's like often I just find, like, what I want is I want someone to send an email to me and say, let's have a chat and figure out what we could do and figure out all these deliverables. And then from there,
come up with a number.
Come up with a number instead of like, giving a specific number right now based on like CPM or whatever, like all of these specifics that I just think, like I get just a lot of shit like that where I'm like industry standards. And I'm like, what? There's no industry standard. This isn't a thing. And I'm like, and it also depends on the type of company you are. Like, we have recurring revenue, so ours might be different than someone who just has a one-time purchase. Like, it varies for every type of sponsor. Like, there should be no industry standard. Like, I don't think it works that way. I think you just need to come up with basically, like, you need to find a middle ground that is beneficial for both the sponsor and like the streamer. And I think I don't want to screw anyone over, but I want to make sure that we're getting, good value out of our dollar as well. And I think it's just kind of finding that relationship. And I think some streamers get it, some streamers don't. Some streamers hire managers who just do a really bad job of that. And it's just interesting.
Well, and also sorry. Just to expand on your point is like it does a disservice to themselves and the community ultimately, because if a sponsor who probably has deep pockets spends $10,000 for an hour of content, and they're saying, well, this is the industry standard, fuck it, let's do it. And then suddenly, next time they're like, well, wait a minute, you barely pitched this and we didn't see any return on this. All right, we're out.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're not. I mean, it's not really thinking long term. So
I know
that's the other thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's like it's funny because every single sponsorship that I do, I want it to be long term. Like I want this to continue forever.
Yeah.
So if we come up with a good dollar value that kind of benefits both of us, that's something we continue for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years, which ends up benefiting everyone. So it is. Yeah. I know. Funny how some people just have some ridiculous.
I could not agree more with that statement. So
my other
curious. Yeah. What, without obviously saying names, what is the weirdest number you've ever gotten? Like, what is the weirdest offer number?
I don't know. I don't know if I could give a specific.
Give general. Like, what's the highest number you've been pitched? Generally, like 10,000, 20,000.
I think like 5 to 10,000. Like typically, it seems like I often kind of half whatever number someone offers me. Like a lot of the time, I'm like, okay, let's go back to like 50% of that, because that makes a lot more sense for me. And I think in general, trying something out. Like I'm not willing to spend a shitload of money. I want to test for a couple of months, see how it goes, and then we can move from there. Whereas people just go to this max value. Like I would say like 5 to 10 grand a lot of the times, a lot of small streamers. And I am going to be starting sponsorships with some big streamers now. So it's pretty funny that these smaller streamers can ask for that amount of money when I'm working with the 26th biggest streamer right now. And I'm not paying him as much as you want. And you're not even in this, you're not even in the realm of the top 1,000 or whatever. So it's just funny. But in terms of one specific example, actually, that's pretty funny. And it's not even related to Twitch. It's this TV channel that I'm not gonna get into specifics about, but it's a channel that is more on it's on Roku and it's on all these other networks, and they're launching this esports and gaming section of the TV channel, and they're trying to cater, I guess, to people that would want to watch an ESPN style show for esports, and it's they're going to have a couple hours of esports. I'm not sure if it's I feel like it's not a specific channel. It's just a couple hours of esports related content on their main network. And they were pitching things we would do a 3-month sponsorship for 500 grand. And I'm like, what? And but and even though the actual viewership isn't even that big. It was 3 million views over 3 months or something, but it was just something that blew my mind that they would have asked that much money. Not to mention there's no ability to add banners. They're not really doing much shout outs outside of saying, okay, this is sponsored by Ting. There's no real discussion. There was so many negatives that I could not, first off, imagine paying that much money for something like that. And secondly, it just seemed worse than Twitch in every single way. And they just they reached out to us because we obviously do some sponsorships in the scene, but to me, it's TV, which is so antiquated anyways, and it's not something I want to be involved in, because I want people to be able to click a banner or ask questions or really direct them somewhere to check us out. And that kind of just blew my mind, because within the first 5 minutes of our conversation, I realized I was this isn't going to go anywhere. We are not going to ever find a middle ground here. So we just need to end this conversation and hopefully never speak again. So that was
exactly. And people still paying for TV are probably not too concerned about their cell phone bills.
Yeah.
Apparently they don't know how to call their cable company. So they're not gonna do that stuff. It makes sense. Now you brought up too, so I kind of think in this space there's a few things that you can directly sponsor: individual events or series, streamers, or players. What are the pros and cons of each of those? So sponsoring someone like Neeb versus Base Trade versus an individual StarCraft Kings or whatever.
Yeah. So So Base Trade actually, because we're not really like a Base Trade sponsor, we sponsor the Ting Open, so like we do tournaments with them. That's nice because, you know, I actually don't really feel like a weekend style tournament is the best for Ting in the sense that it's like 3 days and then you never talk about our service again, because I think that repetition is really important, and it does, like I said earlier, it takes time to really switch to our service. So I think that, you know, I really like working with Base Trade because it's like a league style tournament, like GSL style, where there's like a group stage and then there's playoffs. So that repetition really ends up translating and people switching to us over time. So I think that is also a little bit similar to streamers, because streamers, you know, are doing it 3 times, 5 times a week. And I think in general, repetition is really important for our service. So, you know, as much as I do say that, and then I'm sponsoring these Beyond the Summit events, I think that's why I want to sponsor more than just one like Smash Bros tournament over 4 days, because I think as I do 3, 4, 5 of them, I'm going to see a lot more people, you know, sign up in the long run. So it is interesting that you say that. And I think that, you know, Neeb isn't really trackable because it's just pure exposure. But I think that the success of him translates into all the other StarCraft tournaments that I do. And that's partially, I think, the reason why the rest of them have been so successful, is because there's so much exposure within him. And I also think it's nice that like I can just sponsor one person and basically get complete exposure in the community, which I'm lucky that I was able to do that, right? Like when I signed him, I had no idea he was going to go and then win like 3 WCS events and then, you know, win a Kespa Cup and all that stuff. So I did get lucky. But that's something nice, obviously, about the StarCraft scene, is that you can just sponsor one person, and if he's good enough, then, you know, they can just.
And that kind of brings up, so 2 or 3 episodes ago, we did a show with team owners, and one of the things they were kind of saying is like it's hard to have a team anymore, because you could just pick up one guy and then package them to sponsors. Do you ever talk to teams, or do you much rather bypass the middleman and go right to the person?
You know, I think if I knew nothing about StarCraft and couldn't do this myself, I probably maybe would work with the team. But I think being a direct sponsor is better, because I think everyone instantly thinks of like Ting when they think of Neeb, and it's just like synonymous with him. So I think that that's also nice. And I think in terms of like reaching out to him, I think he was more interested in working with us too, because we don't rely on sponsors to give us money in order to be able to give him money, right? It's like we make money as a cell phone service. So we're very different from a lot of these sponsors who are like a team that might not be around forever, right? Like Ting, unless everyone leaves our service, we're making money every month no matter what. So I think it kind of helped him, I think, like be like, okay, like Ting is a legitimate company, not like an esports team. So I think like in certain situations it would be useful to be on a team, but I think it's like a sponsor of a team, but I think it's more so brands that just need like exposure of a name. And as much as sure Neeb isn't talking about Ting, the fact that like we are like his only sponsor gives us a little bit more exposure than if we were just like one of 5, let's say, which I think Ting already isn't already that well known in general as a cell phone service. So it would push us back even further than say just the Neeb sponsorship. So it's something I've thought about, and especially in other scenes, like I have thought about sponsoring teams. But I think for me, like my focus now is doing more kind of tournament style stuff, and then streamers in general. Like I think just encompassing a shitload of streamers across Twitch and in a bunch of different games that cater to older audiences. But I'm never going to stop StarCraft. Like I'm going to continue, I think, with the Ting Open. I'm going to continue sponsoring Neeb. And then I might, I think I might be working with, Jake and Scarlett on their anonymous tournament. Yeah. So I had a good chat with them at DreamHack about that. So we're going to be kind of doing some fun stuff there. So I think it's kind of fun to be able to like work in the scene that I love the most, and I don't think I'm ever going to leave because it also does so well, which is great, because I don't ever want to.
I like how I can tell Jesse's serious, because every time he has a good point, he hits the desk to like exclamate. Really hammering home.
I'm never gonna leave.
Michael, I have a curious question for you guys in Matcherino. You guys also have like streamers also use your service, right, as well, to like support themselves. In terms of like just even a little bit outside of StarCraft, streamers versus tournaments and getting sort of reaction from that, how does that fare? Like, do you find that tournaments get better sort of like pull from Matcherino versus a streamer who just has this casual help my cell phone bill reach 100?
Yeah, it depends. I would venture to say like 95%, if not more, of our content is tournaments. I think mainly it's because when you make what we call a match arena, there's a point. Now, sometimes, especially in the FGC, you do see campaigns of let's get these 3 players to, Evo, let's say. And at that point, then there's a clear goal. It's like Kickstarter, and people can do it, and then that's more of a hit. Honestly, it comes back to what I said earlier. Is it really depends how you present it and how much you invest in terms of the campaign, what products you get, what sponsor requests you put on, and how you present it to your community. We have seen some streamers fail miserably in getting their crowdfunding campaign off the ground, and then we've seen some people hit their goals and then some.
Is it their numbers that make a big difference too? Like if a streamer is like, do you have streamers that have a lot of numbers and they still don't able to get the campaign, or is it really?
That's happened. That's really happened. I think that it's because the people with sometimes, let's say, 20,000 concurrent viewers don't put enough effort into getting those 20,000 people to actually go and actually, visit the campaign and make purchases. They kind of just expect it to just auto-generate. We have seen people with massive numbers fail. We've seen some people with 10 viewers raise a ridiculous amount of money. It's really hard to predict, honestly.
Do you find too, I was kind of wondering this as I was browsing Matcherino today, do you ever worry about an oversaturation where if you get to, you're obviously going to have your success stories, the Pylon show does well, the Ting tournament does well, whatever. But if you end up with like 200 that are looking for $300 and they get 2, that it ends up looking bad or looking like a failure, or people don't go to it as much? Is there an oversaturation point?
Yes and no. So yes, if we weren't innovating in terms of the platform, then I would say yes. But the fact that we're bringing in new partnerships with, folks like Ting or Soylent or a couple groups that we haven't announced yet, and we're able to offer more to the community. I mean, that's at the end of the day. We can't, if you have the same 500 people, you can't expect them to constantly open their wallets unless you make it worth their while as well. So to that end, we kind of need to focus on not only benefiting the TOs, but also benefiting the community. That's why we're trying to partner more with the publishers and with the brands that want to get involved in esports. So I would say that there is a problem with oversaturation if we weren't bettering our product, but because we're seeing that we're still able to cater to all the TOs that are still coming to us and still want to be supported. As long as everyone's winning, I think that we have a winning formula.
Okay, so we're getting close to the end of the show. Just a few more. I have just about 1 or 2 questions left. But StarCraft obviously went free to play very recently. I want to know from both of you, how has free to play impacted your support into StarCraft, whether it be positive, negative, or no change at all? Why don't we, Michael, you're the last one to talk. Why don't you lead us with that one?
Oh, okay. It hasn't really changed. We have seen, I pay attention to the numbers in general, and I've seen that that the numbers of StarCraft, at least, I can't speak to the player base, but the player numbers, rather, the player count. But I have kind of been under the impression that tournament editions like Nation Wars 4 and 5, the numbers went up from, in between the two. So I would venture a guess and say that free to play, as well as community support and sponsors like Ting coming in. I mean, you need a perfect storm, but free to play has certainly helped. It hasn't impacted our level of support in any way at all, because we were never like revisiting our decision. On the other hand, I am happy, with the growing trend, with the trend that StarCraft is growing. So hasn't changed us at all, but it seems to have impacted StarCraft in a positive way.
Jesse.
Yeah, I think one of my concerns sponsoring the community after a long period of time is just like diminishing returns. So obviously StarCraft, as much as it does get new viewers in, it's not like it's just getting a crazy new influx of people constantly. And I think free to play did bring in a lot of new people. And I'm on the Ting Season 5 now, and one of my concerns was that over time we would see less signups just because it's the same people watching the event. And if you wanted to switch to Ting, you would have already switched to Ting. Maybe you need an unlimited plan, maybe you don't live in the US. And so I was kind of thinking that it would slowly kind of lower, and at a point I would have to say, okay, I can't do this anymore. Like we can't keep sponsoring this because it's not viable. And I think free to play has really kept it going, in my opinion. Maybe it's not due to free to play, but I really haven't noticed any drop in signups. Like I think no matter every tournament that I do, it's always very consistent. Same with the channels that I sponsor within StarCraft. I've seen consistency over time, and I'm gonna maybe relate that to the fact that it's free to play and there is new people and more people kind of coming in due to that. So yeah, I guess it's a positive for me, because when I see tournaments, obviously this year's WCS, we've seen higher viewership than last year, which is great. And yeah, so I would say it's a positive thing, and not seeing any drop in viewership or in terms of landing page traffic and people actually signing up I think relates to free to play. So yeah.
And I think in a way, and you touched on this before, but I think your type of product is such that someone can see it 50 times and they're locked into their plan for 2 years. And then only when that plan is about to be up, they're like, let me check out that thing. I'm sure I saw the name Ting on Neeb for over a year before I ever knew what it was.
Yeah.
So I just never bothered to look it up, right?
Yeah.
So it takes time. It takes impetus. A lot of people would ignore it, and then one day they'll have the idea.
So yeah, I'm not sure if it's related to free to play, but that to me, that's only a good thing. I want more people, as a fan and as a sponsor, I want the game to be bigger, and I think it deserves to be bigger. So it's great.
All right, so I think that's such a good note. I to lead off the end of our show, but before that, I do have a last question, which we ask all our guests, or most of our guests. Our final question, and we're going to start with Jesse. What is your best purchase you've ever had under $100? And I say best, I mean impacted you the most under $100.
Anything.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a tangible object. The best thing you spent that has impacted you the most under $100.
Okay, I think it's these headphones, the ones I'm using right now. So they are Sennheiser 300X, or I don't know, 300 something C something, and they're $39 or $49. I've been using them for 6 years, and they have a 2-year warranty. So they have broken a couple times, but I just send them to Quebec and then I get them back for free, a brand new pair. They are unbelievable. That's why I will always have a phone with a headphone jack, because they have a cable. And I love them. They have unreal bass. I think I was just looking on Reddit reviews at one point for just the best earbuds. And I bike home every night, and I don't bike with 2 headphones in, but I bike with one in, and I always put a podcast on. When I go home, I use these headphones all the time. I use them at work every day. But they're $40 off Amazon, and they're amazing. I think it's Sennheiser 300, I don't know, IIX, or I don't know. Anyways, they're these I would say
they might not even make them anymore.
No, they do. They do, because I had to buy a new pair recently.
Okay.
And I think that would probably be my best purchase under $100. I also wanted to show you things off my desk relating to things that I love, because this is Halo, and this is
what is this?
Do you know what this is? It's from WCF. So this is from last year. So I have this framed, although it's slid down in the frame, and it kind of sucks. And I basically bought this off Amazon, and I thought I measured the size right, but I didn't. At one point it hung up on a wall, but now I'm in the middle of our office, so it doesn't really work. So I kind of just have it on the side of my desk. But I rep both StarCraft and Halo because they're my favorite games in my office. So yeah,
nice.
Wanted to show that.
Is it Sennheiser CX300II?
Yes, it is. Yeah, okay. It does. So if you're looking for amazing earbuds that will break after a year, but you can send them back to get brand new ones, then do that. And they're very cheap, and they're amazing. They feel great. So yeah, solid bass. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, it says precision enhanced bass earbuds.
Yeah. They're good.
There you go.
Michael, what's yours?
Man, that's a tough one. I don't really know how to answer that. I've had time to think about it. I'm going to be pretty lame that, despite, as opposed to Jesse's impassioned speech about his earphones. And by the way, I'm actually wearing Sennheisers as well. Great purchase, not the best purchase I've ever made in my life, but I would probably say, I hate to say it, but Apple Care. Just because recently someone sat on my computer. At least that's what I think happened. There was a crack. I'm not really sure. Kind of just like, it was a really odd thing. It just broke itself. I took it into the Apple store, and they pretty much gave me a new computer. My keyboard was falling apart. I'm not a very good Apple spokesman, apparently, but the whole thing was falling apart on me for no reason. And for a small price of just Apple Care, I think it's $89. They pretty much repaired everything. So I think at least that's what comes to my, comes to the top of my head.
That's
Apple
all.
Care. You gotta buy it.
So we
Insurance
actually were.
is important.
Actually, you know what? Actually, I'll be honest. I kind of like that one. Because I used to be a big insurance is a scam kind of thing, but something when it comes to a device like your phone or your computer that you can get made whole really easily, and then grill you 1,000 questions.
It's a scam right until you need it, and then you realize just how happy you are. The whole time I was like, thank God I did that. So
I think especially devices you use every day, they're gonna break sometimes, and
on the off chance.
My apartment, for example, my apartment makes me get a certain amount of insurance to be able to rent, and it's like, well, what's the likelihood of this happening, or if this does happen, will they actually pay out, or will they be like, well, the moon wasn't in retrograde, so I won't actually pay you out, and you gotta suck it up because you have water damage. So that's my feeling on insurance.
Do we want to be nice and ask Spear Dragon's question?
Yeah, no, we're definitely. I know we were, but Fear Dragon is no. I do like Fear Dragon. I do like when he
typed it out and everything.
Why don't you?
Fear Dragon says the names of teams, even though some of his co-casters do not. I noticed that at the last WCS Montreal. He made a point of definitely saying the name before everyone.
I want to say he watched our show and was inspired because he was in the channel.
So the question is for Jesse. So with sponsorship, and you touch on a tiny bit of this, but with sponsorships like Neebs, where it is just a general association of the name, how much can you attribute or measure the success of him versus other things where they do other types of sponsorships you have where you're going to get a normal influx based on that event?
Yeah, it's hard. I think to me, I judge the success on obviously how often he's on stream. So, the further he's making in a tournament, the more often he's actually going to be playing on stream and, showing his logo and Fear Dragon saying, I don't know, doing the player intros and saying Ting Neeb or whatever, that, all of that is very beneficial as, a sponsor, because I want us to be seen as much as possible, and I want Neeb to be seen as much as possible. And I think I'm lucky in the sense that obviously he's the lone American to be able to do well in these tournaments. So often he does get put on stream and shown, and especially last year he was hyped up so much, and so they've really talked about him all the time. So I think it's very hard to attribute directly, but I also would attribute all of the rest of my success in the past 2 years in the StarCraft scene, especially in terms of Base Trade and Nathanius's sponsorship stuff, through Neeb as well, because of how much exposure he gets us. So I would say I also attribute those sponsorships to his success. But I think in general, the more that he is on stream on a big WCS event, the more I would consider his sponsorship a success, basically.
So you measure him basically him winning things and getting far on.
I think because he's so good and loved, I think he buys you goodwill, and the goodwill is what makes people tolerate the sales.
Right.
No, totally. And I think that that's why I said it doesn't really ever feel gross for people to talk about.
Yeah, because we know you're genuine.
We're a part of this,
as opposed to leeching.
Yeah. So
as opposed to leeching, I like that. That's a really
it's when you watch if you go to any Fortnite thing right now or something, you're gonna see some company that you've never heard of, and they've got some
widgets,
something, and it doesn't fit at all, and you've never heard of them. It doesn't make any sense. But this gets you the goodwill such that everyone's heard of you, and then they're willing to listen to the pitch because you've actually become a hero brand.
Basically.
And I'd say same with Maturino for StarCraft is definitely in hero brand status as well.
Oh, absolutely.
This is very, very helpful for the community. So,
I think if anyone, I think in general in StarCraft, if anyone thinks about how are we going to raise money for a tournament, I think everyone instantly thinks Maturino. Like, there's no.
Well, I have to give you guys props specifically for the Nation War thing. That was I thought it was amazing. I thought the whole idea that and I hope that can be more of, like, obviously Nation War was fairly recent, decently recent. But the idea of having those digital in-game purchases and them going straight into like supporting grassroots tournaments is exciting. Like, that's super exciting.
I fully agree, and I'm really hoping that we can do that for more tournaments more frequently. I think it's incredibly powerful, both for the community, for the TO, for the scene, and for obviously for Blizzard, because help me help you kind of thing.
Coax Blizzard into that? Or did they come to you?
So a lot of that was actually OGaming. OGaming, it all came together at once. We were talking to Blizzard because we wanted to do that because we knew how powerful it was going to be. And then they said, well, why don't we plug Nation Wars into this and let's see how it works. So while OGaming was kind of the one that was already talking about the content, and we came and we said we want to start doing in-game content, and then Blizzard kind of paired us together and said, well, let's see what happens. But we already kind of had our sights on partnering with Blizzard, or not really partnering with Blizzard, but trying to get in-game items for as much StarCraft content as we can. And honestly, we would still love for that to happen, and we'll see if it does.
Okay, well, that is very hopeful. I'm hoping that that's something that can also reach out to other. I guess that's probably more like something the top organizers on your platforms would have access to, as opposed to like the average person to like put in-game StarCraft content in. But
who knows? Unfortunately, I don't have the keys to that decision. If I did, I would certainly I'd be handing them out like hotcakes.
Absolutely. I hope that we have almost like a. I also give Dota the props to it. The idea of the workshop where organizers could sell like little trinkets and stuff that help raise their tournament status and that kind of stuff. That to me is an envisioned StarCraft future of emotes and other things that community members can make to go on to start the Blizzard store to help raise tournament funds. But
we'll write your congressman.
That would be the hope and dream. All right, so as we come to the end, Michael, where can people find you, or where do you want to shout out to the good people at home?
To the good people at home, hello. I'm on. I think I'm not on Twitch very often, and I've had a lot of fun doing this. They can find me either at Maturino _ on Twitter, or I don't even know if there's an underscore there anymore, or they can find me at ESChamp. It's changed so many times. It's like, it's hard to keep track, but we are Maturino at Twitter, and then also my personal one is ESChamp. And feel free to reach out if you guys have any tournaments or any sponsored products or anything. If you want to get involved in StarCraft tournaments, I'm your guy. So let's grow your event. Let's grow your brand, and see what happens.
Jesse, where do you want to shout out to the good people at home?
I'd like to say, hey, thanks for watching StarCraft and supporting you guys, because ESChamp is awesome, and I'm Canadian and I appreciate everything you guys do, and Kings of the North is awesome, and I know you're running so many cool things constantly, like the AI tournament is awesome, and I just appreciate all the kind of effort you guys put in, so thank you for that. And you can check out Ting at Ting for the Win. I have a Twitter as well.
Did you get it? Did you make it at Ting for the Win? Like, was that your doing?
No. I mean, I didn't. I started after, like, a year after Ting existed. So I didn't do that.
That's
we tried to get at Ting. I know we tried to get at Ting, but I think someone who used to work on Twitter owns that handle. Like, we have Ting on Instagram and Facebook, but we don't have it on Twitter, because if you go to that, it's a girl who she used to work at Twitter. I don't know if she still does, but she stole it from us. So damn it. So, and I have a Twitter, Jesse _ Sims. I mean, I mostly just retweet Neeb stuff and post sometimes, but Yeah, thanks for watching, and thanks for having me on, guys. This is fun, and I mean, StarCraft will always be my favorite esport and favorite community in general, and yeah, and you know, you guys are part of the reason why I'm able to do this. So thank you.
When I think one of the things that the good people at home are always wondering is when will there be another like StarCraft Jesse challenge?
I mean, I'd love to do another one. It's really our time. Like, our video editor is really busy because we have an internet brand now, and we do a lot of commercials in like local towns and cities across the U.S. And it's really finding time for him, because if I did it, I'd want to be able to make a video piece out of it, because you know that's the fun thing that we can share on stream. So it's really getting time from him to do that. But I would love to. Like, I still play. I mean, I play mostly co-op. I'm not that big into one-on-ones because it just stresses me out. But I mean, I should play more because I'm decent. But if I had something like that, like a viewer challenges coming up, I would practice a lot. But hopefully, it would be fun to do it for this tournament coming up now. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed at all. It's just finding time for our video editor to actually film me do this. Like, maybe I could like set up my own camera or something. I don't know. But
I would like to add. I want to see another. You know, and this goes out to all the TOs, all the StarCraft TOs. Hear me. I need a redemption. Okay, there was a sponsor tournament.
There was.
You know, some days are bad, some days are good. And give me a second shot. I'm a contender, I swear. So yeah, I want to see a sponsor. Yeah. I want to see a sponsor show match. I want Jesse. You've got to play in it. Let's go.
Wait,
and throw match in. You know, put me in, coach.
There was a sponsor show match.
There was a tournament.
Yeah, there was a sponsored tournament. Sorry, it had Corsair, it had Twitch, it had Ting, it had Match Arena.
Jesse, was that the one you did at the Corsair headquarters? Was that the one you were telling me at MTL?
No, so that was a live event at the finals of Ting Open Season 3. But we also, so Base Trade also did their own. They did a sponsor tournament entirely. So it was a bracket, like round of 8, like quarterfinals, semifinals, finals.
Right.
It was really fun. I think, Mike, we played in the semis, didn't we? You won your first match, did you?
No, I did not. I lost because best of one. Who does best of one?
That's unforgiving. That's unforgiving.
I was getting my feet wet. I was warming up, and maybe the last 30 seconds of the match, it all clicked, but it was already too late. I was too far behind.
That's funny.
Who won that tournament?
I mean, I lost 3-2 in the finals to Mark, who went carriers every game. I couldn't.
You lost the carrier.
I did. So actually, the finals, I think, might have been.
They were good then. They're bad now.
Yeah,
or they will be bad now.
He actually, it was really close. So I'm not good enough, like mid game, to just close out someone who is going carriers. Like, I'm not good at like timing pushes. So I just
now with carrier timing, you have about 100 seconds.
I know. And
you should be able to figure that
out. Anyways, it was 2-2 game 5, and he double proxy stargated me and went void raise and just won game 5. But it was close. It was fun. I mean,
what company did Mark work for?
For Twitch. Twitch. Mark Sequeira. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he loves StarCraft. He's always in he loves M canning. I know that.
When I lost, I think I got a flurry of calls. One of whom was Grant, and Grant didn't even say anything. I just pick it up and like, shut up. He's like, like just laughing, man. So it was really bad. I need a round 2, and this time hopefully, Jesse, I swear I will not go carriers. And we can see if we can make it to the semifinals or what. But that's a challenge to all the TOs. Put on a tournament. Let's go. And really I will represent Match Arena to the full. Yeah, it was really fun. It was awesome.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun. I don't know. I missed that. That sounds like hilarious.
Yeah, it was about a year ago, maybe, I'd say.
All right.
Yeah. Probably.
You're due for another one.
Yeah, then we're definitely due for another. Maybe over the holidays. That'd be fun. All right,
let's
boys.
do it. I'm gonna start practicing. So.
All right, make sure you shake off that dust, shake off that rust, and shake off that dust.
Well, I mean, I wanna, keep it an even game, not provide too much of a challenge, make it entertaining. Right?
Oh my gosh, maybe we should enter Dave.
Yeah. Dave would just kick all our asses, honestly.
Dave's a secret GM. He doesn't just check his random rand.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no regret was staying with me. For a couple days. It was only meant to be like overnight, but then he missed his flight back to Korea. And then he spent the next day playing random on my account.
That's awesome.
And he got like GM.
Yeah, GM random.
GM random.
That's fun.
All right, boys and girls, just before we end off the show, let's reveal who that challenge was. I don't know if Tara, if you fell asleep, show the people who was the answer.
Who's that Pokemon?
Who's that player? It was beyond. I mean, Mars Maru.
We were talking about beyond.
I was like, we were just talking about.
Yeah.
It's Maru.
Yeah.
So hopefully,
Maru is basically the Cyril of Korea.
He essentially is. So hopefully,
proxy Cyril.
We'll find out what that looks like come BlizzCon when they will hopefully play in the semifinals. Most people are assuming that's how it's going to play out. Maybe it will play out like that.
Yeah, I don't know. People were speculating on if that's how the groups work, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it's going to work.
I don't think it is. Someone said it was a random draw before. But
yeah, I think it's just luck. Like in the round of, like as long as they both come first in their groups.
Yeah.
It's not.
Then you either get whatever. Which means there's only a 1 in 3 chance they play in the semifinals.
It is, yeah. Right.
What's the chance of them playing in the finals then?
2/3. I think
2 and 3, as long as they don't.
6% chance.
Yeah, the other.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I don't do gambling or any kind of betting, because I fucking can't make those odds work in my head.
You could have made so much in Montreal.
There
was a lot of good upsets.
I'm too afraid to do gambling. I'll just like lose all my money and be sad. So last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you can help support making our shows better through our Matreon. I'm not Matreon. Our Patreon.
What?
I know, right? Like,
we're gonna find a product to sell.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's an ongoing thing. Matreon works better when there's a goal, but there's no particular goal except making our shit go better. But maybe you can just run them all in conjunction. Who knows? All the things.
We should throw pro bots on there, really.
Oh yeah, we should. For pro bots on Kings of North, we always put Kings of North on Matreon.
Yeah, for sure.
Good portion of the prize pool, like I was telling other people last time, Kings of North, and usually like Kings of North, a lot of our tournaments can and only happen from our community support. We are one of those casters that, or broadcasters, we don't have the huge amount of viewership, but we do have a lot of great supporters who time and time again, like you, Old Man Toast, and a couple of others who
OFU who just subscribed.
Yep, who constantly find ways to support us, even in the smallest amount of ways, constantly. So Patreon is one of our main ways we use that mainly for our content upgrades for this show. This show is ongoing. There's no particular endpoint. A lot of you guys have expressed how much you like this kind of content, this kind of topics, these kind of discussions, and bringing on people you may not normally see. Oh, Old Man Toast hiding in that background. So our Patreon has been a way to keep up upgrades. Like all of these segments came because you guys help support us, keep us on our toes so that we can keep going. So that's that. And last but not least, obviously subscribe and all that good stuff. And if you missed it because you were unable to watch this episode will be up on YouTube. So if you're not a subscriber, and some of you are not, a lot of you are not, you should be, this video will be up on YouTube for the rest of you. But if you are subscribed, you can get it first by looking at our bots. All right. I think that is a good place to end it. I want to thank my guests for coming on. Thanks. Endersword, where can the people find you? I almost forgot.
People can find me at Endersword on Twitter and find me on this show. And of course, find us tomorrow during ProBots. Our second night of group play is tomorrow. So check that out if you're interested in seeing robots fight each other and do derpy things.
So you guys commentate that as well, right?
Yeah. We commentated. The bots do absolutely amazingly cool stuff, and sometimes they do amazingly shitty stuff, which makes it even more funny.
Yeah.
For what many people don't know, and this came up on Reddit, and these bots do have individual personalities. You'll have a Velo bot will only attack when he has 200 supply and has built a whole bunch of defense, and Byun Jr.
Does he BM people too?
It does BM. It just says random things now and then before GGing, it just either calls them a hacker or says you're trash. Or whatever.
The bots are really good.
That's actually amazing.
Yeah. So check out our ProBots. That's we still have a couple of weeks of ProBots going on. We just started. So Friday, 7:30 EDT, and then we rebroadcast for EU on Saturday, 7:30 CEST. So. Absolutely. Until then, the rest of you guys, thank you so much. I can't wait to see you on the next Inside the Scene.